you cannot create by attracting. Yes, you heard that right. Before I explain this video is going to be packed. So if you have any questions, just let them below. I'll try to answer them or even record a video on top of them. And note down any questions you might have while you're watching so that you can rewatch or research afterwards. It's fine, take it easy. So in this video, we're going to talk about these things right here. So manifestation and projection, how they work together. The body versus the mind versus the soul versus the spirit. What's the difference between them? The whole gist of having multiple bodies, what are those? Let's explain this using the Kabbalah. And last but not least, astral projection versus mind projection versus remote viewing. So let's understand this. You cannot create by attracting. I already have a video on manifestation, and if you watched it, you'll remember that the process by which things are created is called the lightning path. It's not called the magnetic path. So that means we have two main forces. We have magnetism and we have electricity. Okay? And to create anything, to manifest something, to change reality, you are always going to use the electric force, not the magnetic one. So this one is going to be the negative, the yin, the passive, right? And this one is going to be the positive in terms of energy, right? Positive, yang, and active. So if you're trying to create something, bring something into reality, you're going to use the active force, not the passive one. The passive is for different things. The process works like this. You're going to try and electrically create something. And the vessel right here, where we are right now, the 3D world, is going to magnetically pull that and store that, kind of crystallize that energy. It will kind of tie into how we explain the body in a bit. But to truly master manifestation, what you're going to do at the end of the day is you're projecting things into reality. Remember, this is a simulator. This is a computer program. So you gotta project things. This is how it works. You're always projecting things into reality. You come into a new room. You start to analyze the data that is there. You start to create images based on what you have as references and symbols. And this process, by the way, of creating the images, this delay is what gives us a little bit of pleasure of learning new things and seeing new things. And then you start to generate emotions while your body gets into a homeostatic state. So if you want to project into a new reality, guess what? You need to use the symbols, send the symbols into this simulator so that it brings them back to you, okay? So what you truly need to master is, first of all, your 5 senses. Because if you cannot imagine something, it cannot come to you. So we have 5, right? We have vision, we have hearing, we have taste, we have touch, vision, hearing, taste, touch, and we have smell. All of these 5 have a digital counterpart. So these are the analogical ones, the ones you can, right, test, but they have the digital counterparts. So if you stopped right now and tried to imagine an apple, for example, or any fruit that you like, some people may not have the vision, right? They have aphantasia or whatever, but you can surely try the other senses. Or maybe for you, taste is a little bit harder. You cannot really, if you try to imagine the taste of an apple, it's not gonna be so much easy to you, or the touch, or the smell, whatever it is. But the thing is, the more you try, the better you get. The more you pay attention to those analogical ones. So let's say, next time you go and eat an apple, pay really close attention to the taste. Really try to feel it. and you get along with the idea so that afterwards you can imagine it. It gets better and better and better. And if you doubt that there is a difference between what you're imagining and what's real, try to think why people sometimes have wet dreams. Because in theory, they're there in their bed, they're not doing anything. But in reality, they are. That's why when they wake up, their body is wet, right? So this is not only the only example, this is just an absurd one. But really what you're doing when you're imagining things is you're sending signals to the simulator and your body doesn't differentiate, right? And the more you send those signals, the more likely it is for those to happen in real life. The fun of the game is that it doesn't even matter at some point. If you can just imagine something, you're gonna have the same emotions, and then you don't even need the thing to happen in real life. But if you truly want this, then that's the key. The more you start to get this digital sense in a higher definition, let's say, the easier it is for you to project. So it's kind of going to start like you have a turned off television. You don't have anything. If you try to picture something, maybe you don't have anything. At some point, you're going to start to see kind of like a television, but there's no channel. It's like a random channel and you cannot see anything. It's just that static thing. Eventually, you're going to start to see colors and geometrical shapes. Okay, it starts to get interesting. Most people stop here even when they use some substance that may help them get this idea of like seeing geometrical shapes, seeing colors and so on, forms. The thing is, if you keep evolving, you're going to start to see things. Kind of like, now I see a house. Okay, makes sense. It's not some random image, some random color. It's a house, I can understand it. Until the point where you cannot differentiate anymore what's real, analogical, from what's digital, right? Be careful, you have to be prepared. But that's the idea. And again, that's not only with vision, that's also with hearing, with taste, with touch, so on, so on, all the 5 senses. So that's how you start to manifest things. You start to project them into reality. When you're projecting, what you're doing is really you're zooming into something. So if your challenge right now is you don't know what to project, what to create in your life, you can try meditation, which is the opposite. When you meditate, you're zooming out of the thing. You're just observing your reality. And if you start to see reality kind of like, again, a computer program, you could imagine that everything is kind of like a pixel. And when you go into projection, what's going to happen is usually there's going to be some things to fix. Some pixels will seem like wrong or not totally desirable. And then you can apply your imagination again to start to fix everything. And you can start to see how that not only improves how you're feeling, but the whole experience. Okay? So that's the idea between projection and manifestation. But to really understand how that all works, let's understand the differences between the body, the mind, the soul, and the spirit. I briefly touched this in other videos, but the thing is, the body is really our hardware. Okay? Hardware. And it is, oh my God, that's terrible. Hardware. And it is magnetic. Okay? So remember, you're sending symbols, you're using your electric force to send things. The body, since it's magnetic, most of it, like your brain is going to be the most electrical one and your spine, but the rest of the body is going to be mostly magnetic. It is going to store this information. And that's how you have your appearance. So if you want to change your appearance, change the signals you're sending, right? That's how you have your smell. That's how you have everything. It stores this information. It crystallizes it in this realm right here so that we can use it, okay? So the body is the hardware. Then we have the mind, which is the software. Software. Okay, which is going to be electric. electric. And the mind, since it's the software, is the thing that runs before, or rather after you send the symbol, so that the hardware can do something. So if the mind tells you to do something, you go and do it. Like I'm raising my arm, I'm doing something specific, I'm eating something, I'm processing all the signals and so on. So it's the software, then the hardware. Then the soul comes, which is the most interesting part in my eyes, because the soul is the one sending the symbols. I already talked about this. So the soul is your capacity to imagine. It's imagination in itself. Again, images in action. Every frame of the simulator, kind of like a video, we are sending specific symbols. That's why learning symbols is really important, so that you know which symbols you're sending or which symbols people are sending to you, so you can block them if they're not desirable. So the soul sends the symbols to the mind processes them based on the software, and the hardware does something. For example, the hardware may trigger a specific emotion, may trigger a specific thought, so on and so on. Then finally, we have the spirit, which is going to be the user. So it's kind of like you entered a VR game, and the thing is, it's indistinguishable. So you don't remember right now that your true body, let's say, is in another place. So the user is in another place. This is purely a character, fabricated character, which the soul is the link between the user and the character, the body and the mind. So the user keeps using the soul to send the symbols, okay? And now that we understand this, we can try to use even the Kabbalah to understand it a little bit better. Our body is going to be down here, right? This is where our whole dimension is, in the third dimension. Then the mind is going to be this. So this part in between here, all these spheres. The spirit is going to be the last one, the most high, or highest octave, connected almost to the creator, the all, the whatever, the supreme energy, the first emanation of energy. So again, the body, the spirit, and the soul and the mind, they're here. Another way of seeing it is, for example, the Kabbalists, you have the body, then you have 5 levels of the soul until you get to the spirit. So then you have here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have the 5 levels. So the first one being the lowest, let's say, the one which is still tied to desires, it cannot control itself, and the higher one, the one which controls every thought, every emotion, and so on and so forth. So again, you start to see how all of these symbols connect to each other. And now that we understand this, let's understand another thing. So we have many bodies, but how exactly does that work? Imagine that you are this big body right here, kind of like a Russian doll, okay? You are this big body. And the thing is, this body is the super subtle, it's like up here, so it's super subtle. It needs to get denser so that you get to experience your reality here. So this would be the most subtle substance you can think of, let's say pure energy or something. Then it becomes like compressed air, so it's a little bit more dense. Then it becomes like water or something. Then it becomes sand and your body. So then you would have divisions. For example, this physical body that we have here, that would be situated right here, is the denser. It's the one that's the heaviest, right? And it isn't because we cannot see the other ones, which are more subtle, that they don't exist, okay? For example, right outside of you, you have a heat body, let's say. If you use heat goggles, you can see the heat inside of you. And sure, I cannot see this with my eyes, but if I use the correct equipment, I can see them. If you take a Kirlian photo, Kirlian picture, you're going to see the different energies that run through your body. And you can start to understand a little bit more how they all are actually in the same place. They're all connected, but you just cannot access them, okay? So for example, if you're talking about bodies, let's name them. So the first one right here, the top one, would be our Buddhic body. Buddhic. Or also the intuition body. Intuition. Also have a video on intuition if you didn't see it. So again, this is the highest body, the one most connected to the creator, to the real, let's say, word. Then we go to this step right here. So these two spheres, and you can see that here we entered duality. Now we have chaos and order. We have two different things to see. We have light and sound. We are stuck between duality. And here we would have our higher mental body. Okay, so this is our higher mental. It is above logic and so on, which is the next one, which is going to be the lower mental. Okay, and then you can see we already have three bodies right here. And the thing is, the higher they are, the most difficult it is to access them, because if you're still super attached to your body, to your physical body, you won't have the consciousness of those others. You cannot really understand and again have awareness of them, but you can access them. It just depends on technology and your awareness. Now the next one, it goes through here, it connects through a silver cord to the next one, which is going to be our astral body, or our desires body, emotional body, desires. Okay, and again, it connects, and you can see that it starts to get more dense. Now we are talking already about emotions, so it's something that's slightly more dense. And when we are talking about the astral body, that's usually the one that you're using when we are talking about astral projection, which we're going to talk in a bit. And the mind one, the mind projection, would be with the higher body, so either the lower mental or the higher mental, usually the lower mental. Then this body right here, the astral one, is going to be connected through a silver cord to our etheric body. Right? So again, the ether, the magnetism, this is where our life force really is, which I talked about in the video about habits, which is the Hierophant. So again, this is where our life force is connected. And finally, through the umbilical cord, we get connected to our, let's say, physical body. Physical. Okay, and then you start to see how many bodies do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 5, 6. But there should be 7. Maybe I missed one. We're meant to etheric. No, that's right. The 7th one would be the Atman body, which is above the Buddhic, but we don't need to go that far. But the idea here is for you to understand that you are not just this that you touch, this that you see in the mirror. This is purely one of the many bodies that you have. Anytime you have, again, life force, when when you have the will to do something, when you have the energy to do something, this is not coming through your physical body. This is coming through your etherical body. Whenever you have emotions, desires, and so on, this is not coming through your physical body. This is coming through your astral body, your emotional body. All the mental dynamics that you have are either coming from the lower mental, usually the lower mental, or the higher mental. Every intuition you have coming from the Buddhic body or the intuition body, and so on, so on, so on. And how do you grow awareness of them? Well, first of all, I would suggest meditation, which is easier. Meditation, like I said, you're just zooming out of the thing. So you're just there and you're paying attention to your body. But then you're paying attention to the heat and you're paying attention to the life force. Again, like go do some yoga, go do some Qigong or whatever, Tai Chi, go do something that uses this life force. Pay attention to your emotions, become more aware of them, and you start to become more aware of your emotional body. It's really that simple. Now, all of that being said, we already covered this. Let's go to the last one, which is going to be the differences between astral projection, mind projection, remote viewing, and so on. I already have a video on this, by the way, which if you're curious, you can try. And you should be able to astral project even today. But let's understand the difference. So if we understand that there are different bodies, when we are talking about astral projection, we are talking about using the astral body to project. When we are doing the imagination, we are more aware of the astral body. When we're talking about the mind projection, the difference is going to be, you're going to be more aware of the mind bodies, the mental bodies, either the lower or the higher one. So how do you know if you're truly projecting or not? The thing is, it depends only on your awareness. So if, for example, you're there and you're meditating and trying to project into something afterwards, and you start to kind of lose the sensations of the body, so that's why it's also easier to do it when you're sleeping, because the body is already like turned off. You're already recharging the other stuff. So it's easier for you to become aware. And that's why dreams are also a huge indicator of how well connected you are. Because if your dreams are just like, first of all, if you don't have any dreams, then you're not connected. If you have some, but they're all crazy and like, it's like some cutscenes, you don't understand something, you have the connection, but you're kind of like there and here, there and here. And eventually when you become only there, that the dreams become better quality. Let's say you can even start to control them and so on and so forth. But the idea here is that, for example, when you are in a place, when we're talking about the astral one, when you are in a place of penumbra, which is like slightly, you have a slight light, which is usually warm light, or like your hands and your feet are not super well defined, because the etheric body is going to be, they also talk about the double etheric, right? It's kind of like a double of our body, it's a copy, because it's too close to it. So the idea is that the higher you go, the less you look like this. The more you look like some energy ball or whatever, the more you lose form. So if you want to know if you're in the mental plane, so first of all, usually no emotions because you are already above them. Second of all, you're probably going to think in different ways, depending again on the lower or the higher. But you're going to be thinking in different ways, and you're going to look different. The thing is, the caveat is that say you have a super great experience projection on your Buddhic body. How do you think this whole experience will now fit into your physical brain? That's the hard part, it won't. So it's kind of like it will get filtered, and usually the bits that you actually have to remember will come. So you could, and you probably are having a lot of different experiences already with your different bodies. It's just that you are not connected enough to understand them. I don't remember if I talked about this in the video on the unconscious, but our consciousness can only hold up to 4% of information about reality, about yourself. So it's not really that much. And remember, it is only up to 4%. Most people are not even there. Then our subconscious, okay, it holds up to 40%, slightly better. So that's the idea. You can sometimes even have the information there for you, but not necessarily in a conscious way. It's not like you're gonna have the complete details of the experience. Now, that's going to be more or less the difference between astral projection and mind projection. And remote viewing is going to be kind of like having awareness of your body, but you are sending your other bodies, your wave bodies, your subtle bodies, to other places to fetch information. Okay, that's totally doable. Like if right now, there's many techniques on remote viewing, but if right now you tried to do one of them and you're awake, what you're doing is you're still conscious of this one, but you're sending the other ones to bring information. Okay, so they're, again, more or less, they're all the same thing. They're just using different tools or techniques to do more or less the same thing, which is accessing information. That's all the simulator is about. You have around 1 million, let's say, chronos time years. So you have 1 million years until your body really reconnects to your higher octave. But if you want to shorten that time, if you want things to get faster, you need more information. You need to get more information. That's the thing. Okay? So don't limit yourself to just one belief system, to just one way of doing things, one point of view. This shows you that there are at least 11 different points of view to anything and 22 ways to navigate those. So don't get stuck to just one. Let's see. If I don't have anything more in my annotations, this will be it. But I'm pretty sure we ended. Oh yeah, that's very, very interesting. So another sign that you are projecting is when you start hearing some kind of buzzing sound. So what you're hearing really is your Merkaba. So you have here your body. And the Merkaba is a really nice technology from our Atlantean friends. I'm gonna add this in a different color so that you can see it better. But basically, it's kind of like two tetrahedrons like this. One towards the bottom, one towards up. And you have these two tetrahedrons and they are circling, one to the left, so the bottom one to the left, so this side, and the top one to the right. The top one is the electric one, the bottom one is the magnetic one, and they spin and spin and spin until at some point, when they spin too hard, too fast, they create a third neutral energy. So again, remember, electric positive, magnetic negative. They create a third neutral one, and you start to become kind of like a UFO. It's kind of hard to draw it, but it's like an egg, okay? And you use this chariot, this car, this UFO, or however you want to call it, to navigate through all of these different spheres. And when you start to hearing this buzzing sound, what you're really hearing is this technology, this thing like spinning around. So that's interesting to notice as well. It usually will happen when you're about to go to sleep and then you're going to project. But again, you're not necessarily going to remember the whole experience. That's then the practice of improving your consciousness, getting it higher so that you get more information, or at least being able to access your subconscious or your unconscious so that you can fetch information from there. Okay? So this was it for today. I hope you liked it. If you have any content suggestions or you just like what I'm doing, please make sure to subscribe, to leave a comment, to like, to send me a message, whatever. Anything that makes me understand that you're liking this. And if you need any help with Kabbalah, astrology, tarot, just let me know. I'm a Kabbalah adept and adept in these other tools that I said as well. So astrology, tarot, and so on. My name is Matt Mora, and for today, this was all. Thank you.